Welcome to another episode of the Left Agora. My name is Akif, and you're about to hear from Agnese Logina, former Minister of Culture in Latvia, current member of the Riga City Council from Progresivie, the Progressives Party. Beyond politics, she's a cultural researcher, film creator, and former director of the Riga Film Museum. In this episode, we talk about her insights on the progressives' role in Latvian politics, security challenges, and the intersection of cinema and politics. Furthermore, what's valuable is that Logina has navigated responsibility at two levels, so today's insights draw on her experience from both sides of the policy chain, municipal and national. She also brings great perspective from her area of expertise. And now, here is my conversation with Agnese Logina. You have served on the Riga City Council, then as a cabinet minister, and now you are back on the council. What did those transitions teach you? Where can a Latvian politician deliver faster and deeper results, the municipal or national level? Could you share your experience with
Mhm.
us?
Sure. I think that being on a municipal level, it's of course way closer to the general public. It's dealing with issues that in one way or another touch pretty much everybody. So in Latvia, for example, municipalities have to deal with issues of transportation, of roads, of also education. So all the schools are the responsibility of municipalities. Not so much content-wise, but for example, like municipalities also they have some freedom in ways how they attract new, for example, teachers and people working in schools. So, long story short, municipalities have a lot of influence on people's daily experiences, and the biggest difference, I think, is that on a municipal level, you see the results of things you do pretty soon. So it's like half a year sometimes, or maybe longer, but mostly it's like, for example, I don't know, in November, you decide that you're going to allocate some funds in one way or like for a certain goal, let's say attracting new teachers, and then you come up with a plan, and you can see some results already next year. On a governmental level, that result part comes kind of like later, and one of the biggest surprises for me really was also that as a minister, you don't really have, let's say, working hands, because you as a ministry, for example, ministries, they don't really they don't really do much on their own. They allocate funds and create systems for how others should be doing something, and then they control supposedly like what is happening. Um, and which means that this job as a minister is actually more theoretical, and you're more like sort of like an inspiration, or maybe like you have to have a vision and something.
Yeah.
But it's like the municipal level, of course, it's like way hands-on and way more hands-on, and you can also just see the results sooner. But it's also, of course, there are many processes in municipalities that also take years, and that's also like you're not going to see everything immediately, right? Uh, but and also, I have to say that honestly, being a minister was a tiny bit easier than being in the city council because on a city council, the thing is that, as I said earlier, the things that you're in charge of, they they are things that people deal with on their daily lives, which means that a lot of people are angry and you get a lot of rage directed towards you. Let's say that, I don't know, winter comes, and winter in Latvia can be sometimes pretty rough. We have a
Yeah.
lot of snow sometimes. And if you don't get like if the municipality cannot control the companies that are hired to clean the roads, you're going to have a lot of really really angry people coming at you, and
So you
yeah,
receive the negative feedback immediately.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, and that's something that actually I think ministers are a bit more sheltered from, this immediate reaction. And of course, like for ministers, I think the busiest or the most problematic time probably is around, in Latvia it's like autumn because that's the budget time.
Yeah.
You traditionally Latvian parliament passes, like they accept the new budget traditionally in early December. And up until then, of course, there are a lot of like tensions starting from September, usually till like December. There are tensions. People are protesting, striking. Sometimes there are like some sort of like activities related to that. But in city council, you're not like people's lives are going on, like they happen every day, right? And municipality plays an intense role, a very very big role in the way how these lives can unfold. And at the same time, I have to say that also being a city council is extremely gratifying if you get to fix some things that have been bothering thousands of people for many years. It is gratifying.
Your insights are really valuable and they are very important because you experienced both at the
Yeah.
national and local level. And as a political scientist, I must say that so far I'm really impressed to hear about those differences, and that was really interesting. And I would like to also now ask actually a question related to again
Mm.
your experience at both levels, but also about your professional background. So, what can city politics do for culture that national ministries can't, or vice versa? So you, for example, provided
Mhm.
the example of snow, bad
Mhm.
weather, but when it comes to culture, your area of expertise, for example, what insights could you provide?
Yeah. I think the most important thing for city in regards to culture is actually, I would say not exactly maybe infrastructure, but creating places where culture can happen. Let's put it like that. So I don't know, you have, let's say an artist collective, right? They want to do something. Of course, they need funding that can be attained in different ways, but they also simply need a place where to grow, where to do something. And I think that cities have very big power and very big possibilities, very many possibilities, really, in creating these creative neighborhoods, creative hubs where things can happen and where culture can grow. And it's also very much city's responsibility to make sure that these creative hubs, these creative communities are not used as part of gentrifying. Because of course we have seen in many cities, also in Riga, that for example, there is a very rundown neighborhood. They decide, like let's say the owners of the place decide to team up with some artists. They give these places to artists, like let's say abandoned factories, something. Artist collectives, artist communities come in there. They start making some events, some things happening there. They create this beautiful hub. They renovate. They sort of like make these places attractive again, and then they're kicked out. And these places are sold for much bigger price than it could
Yeah.
have been possible before that. So I think it's also city's responsibility to make sure that like that it's not only gentrification happening. I don't know how to explain it better, but to sort of like it's also I think city's really responsibility to also protect artists from being um, yeah, used in a negative way like this. If it's like, but also there are some. It's not always bad. I think we also had a really nice example a few years ago in Riga, where some creative people teamed up with real with like property with people who wanted to develop property. And for like 3 or 4 years, they created some content in this particular place. But it was like very clear. It was very clear that this is a contract for like 3 or 4 years. After that, they're going to build some buildings there. But for 3 or 4 years, they had these community gardens there. They had really nice events and everything. And it was like very clear. Um,
Yeah.
but um, but there are also many cases when trust from creative people is abused by developers. And I think that it is a city's responsibility to make sure that this creative power is not used only in this capitalistic way. Let's say it like that. But of course, also, I mean, city has to, like, of course, it's also the question of funding. City also is funding, like in Latvia and Riga, city is funding also cultural events, culture projects, trying to strike some sort of balance between culture that is, well, like popular culture, and also something that is maybe more alternative. That is also, I think, city's responsibility to also use these means that are at city's disposal to develop also I don't know how to say it in a way that it doesn't sound condescending, but so that it's not only popular culture, but that we give also stage, for example, for new artists, for people who are doing something alternative, so
Yeah.
that people get, like inhabitants of, let's say, Riga, get the chance to meet culture that they would not have had in like on their own.
These were great insights. And I will ask you about your, once again, background and
Hmm.
profession about culture. But now let me move us to the party.
Okay.
How do you define the progressives' role in Latvian politics today? In your opinion, what is the sharpest disagreement that sets you apart from other parties? How would you compare the progressives with other parties?
Sometimes it feels like pretty much everything, but no, that's a bit. I think that everybody has that feeling sometimes. Um, there are a lot of differences, of course, but Latvian politics, it is it is a bit special. It's a bit sometimes hard to explain this, but um, a lot of people in Latvia do believe in free healthcare, free education. A lot of people like do agree that the state has to um, maintain a rather high standard of things that are accessible to its inhabitants, right? Um, but which are sort of like very basic leftist policies. But if they're called like that, if they're called leftist policies, uh, immediately a lot of people are terrified of the word leftist, and they sort of like start disagreeing with that. While at the same time, like nobody is really questioning, let's say, free education here. We all agree that this is a must. This is something that the state has to provide. That's one of the main things that the state has to provide, as well as free healthcare. So I think that one of the biggest challenges for the progressives definitely is that somehow to show that these things that we believe in, that we fight for, inclusivity, inclusion, social inclusion, high, let's say, fighting against inequality, also socially, also economically, also green policies that we see our nature as a virtue, as not only as a thing that we can use for making money. A lot of people believe in that. Those are not radical ideas here, but for some reason, for years, people have been voting for politicians that say that, but they do something different. And so currently, I think but right now, like in September 2025, I think one of the biggest issues is actually related to forests, to nature, where we see very stark differences and very big challenges because there are quite some political powers, political parties that see forests as a way to make money, and that we have to cut more forests to make more timber to make more money. And we, of course, see forests and trees not only as an economical resource, but as a virtue on its own. It's something that makes our lives better. And we see also that, well, in Latvia, like we really used to have a lot of forests. Now it's now because of unsustainable policies, we physically see that these forests are decreasing, like the amount of forests in Latvia is decreasing. And it currently feels that this is actually one of the biggest disagreements. It's been a lot in the news now, because the way how the Ministry of Agriculture, which currently is under a different political force, the way how they approach forests, it's starkly different from the way how we see it. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, one of the interesting things is that if you talk to people on the streets, like, or if you like do some surveys or something,
Yeah.
people do agree that we need forests not only as an economical source, but it's also like in Latvian, let's say, mushroom picking is a very big thing. People in autumn always go in forest to pick mushrooms. They like this mushroom foraging. I think it's called like that. And you can't. Like, there's not going to be any mushrooms if there are no forests anymore, right? If you see forests only as like plantations of trees, there are not going to be any mushrooms there. So basically, there's like this very, on a societal level, there's a very big um, respect towards forests, but on a political level, it somehow gets traded for short-term economical gains. And that's one of the struggles that we're facing now.
Yeah. 2022 elections was a
Hmm.
turning point for the progressives. The party is a relatively new one in Latvia. It was founded in 2017, but
Mm.
especially the elections which took place in 2022 was very significant for the rise of the party. It became a part of the current ruling coalition, and of course, it was also a tense period for European politics, specifically for Eastern European countries, because
Mm.
Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, and the elections took place in fall 2022 in Latvia. So, um, the next elections actually, how do you see the situation in Latvia? What will be the priorities of political parties before the elections, during the campaigns, and what will be basically the priorities of the progressives? What do you expect from the party? Um,
Hmm. So I can't really talk. I can't really say talk in the name of all the party, right? I just can say about myself what I think that are the priorities, because it's just like we're still in the process of establishing a roadmap for the elections and everything. But um, of course, one of the main priorities, if not the most important priority, is security. And that is actually something that is It's a very common priority. Like there are very few disagreements about it on one side of politics, but at the same time, like of course, we have also political parties that encourage a different attitude towards our big neighbor Russia, and but and so currently we use this term. Um, No, I'm not going to be able to translate it in English, sorry. But basically, like there are pro-European, pro-NATO parties, and then there are, of course, also anti-EU, anti-NATO parties. And this division over the last few years has become more intense and very, very visible. And if before that it was not as important, then of course after 24th of February 2022, this division became one of the most important ones. Which direction do we see that Latvia has to go? Of course, the progressives, me personally, we're very much in favor of strong EU, strong NATO. We see that Latvia, like that's fundamental for Latvia's democracy, Latvia's independency, and that is also something that is, I think, from what I understand and what I've read, it's this is something that is a bit harder to understand also, I think, for leftists from other parts of the world. But the thing is that, yeah, Russia is not a good neighbor. Russia is a horrible neighbor, and it's a very imperial force. They have very imperialistic tendencies, very imperialistic dreams, and it's and they do not they have done a lot to undermine our freedom, our security, our independence, our democracy, really. And we see these challenges daily, pretty much. We see like we've been living in Latvia, we've been living in the Baltic states, we've been living in sort of like the reality of hybrid threats for years now, and this is, I think, still, of course, this is the main theme for the next elections as well, because we have to be ready. Yeah, sorry.
I hope the war in Ukraine will be over until the next elections. Um, but still, it continues. So
Yeah, I also hope it's going to be over, but even more so, I hope that it's going to be over on and just and really uh, good terms for Ukraine. Because if it's not, if it's just over, if it's like ceasefire, then nothing ends. We know this very
permanent.
well. Yeah,
It should be a permanent peace.
and
That's
just
that's
it
that's
has
the
to.
point.
Yeah, it
Just
has.
and permanent.
Yeah, and so yeah, but as they say, like I somehow end up always quoting "Forever Young" by Alphaville, but like that's somehow a very in this song they have a very, I think, good slogan, that hoping for the best but expecting the worst. So that's sort of, I think, at least my attitude towards a lot of things, that of course you have to keep up hope that somehow a miracle can happen, and that things can turn out for better. But you have to be also ready for the possibility that things are going to get more like worse. And that is unfortunately our reality now. And I wish more people in Europe actually understood that. But no, of course, like over the last 3 years, this awareness has been growing. But unfortunately, still, like we see so many, um, like the Russian propaganda has been going on for years, and the results are there, and people are very, um, um, yeah, just like you still see many ways how people try to make some business with Russia, saying that it's not a big deal and whatever. That's like it is a big deal, and it's just the Baltic states and Finland actually know it very well.
Yeah. I understand your points. Let's turn to a different subject now at the individual level. How has your background as a film creator, a museum director, and cultural researcher shaped your approach to politics in terms of your views, your methods,
Mm-hmm.
or your priorities?
It's actually a very interesting question. And now, for the first time in my life, I'm actually studying political science. I'm doing my second master's degree in diplomacy. So I'm studying like international relations and for the first time, really political science. But the thing is that, of course, um, all my political experience has been great, like all of my political knowledge, everything I have gained in practice, right? So I've been working a lot. I've been campaigning, working in city council, working in the government. Um, and I have to say that my previous experience in cultural theory has been tremendously important. Because the thing is that when it comes to culture, um, or when it comes to culture, it really helps you if you study it, if you look at the ways how people approach culture, it just shows it just tells you so much about the way how they think. And basically cultural theory can give you instruments and tools how to analyze ways how people think and why they think in a specific way. And so also now when we're experiencing like behind like before our eyes, we're experiencing the collapse of one system that has been in place for many years and the birth of something new, which currently does not look better. It looks actually that the new world order can be pretty horrible and very authoritarian. Well, cultural theory sort of like helps you understand why this is happening. It does not necessarily give you tools how to stop make it happening, how to like how to avoid bad things happening.
Yeah.
Um, but when like after like it can explain why, let's say, the myth of uh, empires, why it's so pervasive, why people fall into this sort of thinking. And of course, one thing that combines that sort of like unites a lot of things that we're currently seeing in front of us, this whole um, like 21st century fascism, fall of like the decline of democracies, everything. It's also very united by patriarchy. And we also see that patriarchy is not ready to give up, and it's like fighting back, and it's crawling back in so many ways. And we see some neo-patriarchy that is different from before what we can read about, but it's still there. It's still like this approach that women are inherently um, lesser than men, and especially white men. And it just like basically cultural theory explains all of this. Like it can explain where these ideas come from, but you do need politics and you need psychology and anthropology to understand how you can change that, how you can make societies as forces of good, not only oppression. And I think that I was just thinking about this yesterday. I think that when I started doing my humanities degree in 2010, I think I started studying for my bachelor degree. Everybody was like telling me, "Oh my God, why do you need it? Like you don't need to study cultural theory. Like you're not going to get any job." And 15 years later, we see that, as it turns out, these like soft sciences, social sciences, humanities, they are key to democracy. And without it, without a strong understanding who we are, what are our values, how we see societies, like, and that we are not like, and at the core of it is that we are not like one is not better than another one. There's one person, one human being is not somehow better than another one. Uh, Without this understanding, yeah, we can't have really any democracy, as it turns out.
That was a perfect explanation. As a person who is deeply interested in cinema, movies, when someone suddenly asks me a favorite movie of mine about a specific topic, like any historical drama,
Hmm.
um, I find it very difficult to answer immediately. I must
Hmm.
really think like 10 seconds, maybe even more, to really name something that I really love. That's the most favorite, not one of the favorite movies, but the most. So I would like to ask you now a question about this topic. Has a Latvian film or artwork ever reframed how you think about society or politics? So, could you name a film which has had a deep impact on you when you think about
Hmm.
society or politics or the world in general?
Just one?
Of course, you can name more than one.
No, Latvian cinema is very strong. That is something I have to say. And Latvian cinema historically, and also currently, is extremely like it's very strong in documentaries and animation, but also like fiction. Currently, we have also very good feature films coming out. Uh, and that's also a field that has been seeing some renewal. But historically, we have extremely powerful documentaries and animation. Um, and there are so many films, like Latvian documentary films, that they not only sort of like document what is happening, but they can also influence how we see these events and sort of like influence what happens next. And one of the most important ones in this regard is a film from 1986 called "Is It Easy to Be Young?" And it's by Juris Bodnieks, who was a legendary Latvian film director. Legendary. He was mostly he was making documentaries. He was a documentary filmmaker. And this 1986, Is It Easy to Be Young? It follows a couple of young people in their lives. They're about, I think they're around 20, something around then, around that age. And it's at the same time, which is something that I think that the film director didn't know when he started filming this. Um, he managed to capture the beginning of the collapse of the Soviet Union. And so these people, they sort of like become these um, ambassadors of change, you could say. Like, but that's something that we see with like today's view. We know what happened in 1986. We know what happened afterwards. We know how the Soviet Union collapsed. These people
Yeah.
at the moment they didn't know that, but you can see, you can feel very much. You can feel in their attitudes, everything. They you can feel this necessity for a change to happen. And I think that this is a very beautiful film that also shows the power of youth, the power of young people to challenge the existing systems, and sometimes also yeah, challenge very oppressive regimes. And so that's a very powerful film. Definitely recommend. Actually, like when Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine started in 2022, a lot of colleagues, foreign colleagues, asked me like for some recommendations, something that they could see to understand this region better. And I always recommended watching this film because it also deals with topics of army, of Soviet army, because at the time, Soviet Union was involved in the war in Afghanistan, and that left very deep scars on men, on young men who then came back from the war, and they were broken because the Soviet army,
Yeah.
it was one of the like it was a very oppressive experience for many men, and it's this system has not necessarily changed. The Russian army sort of like currently still um, operates in a similar way, on a similar sort of like system of oppression within the army. So yeah, that's one film, but also a very recent one that I think is a very beautiful work and that gained a lot of fame is of course Flow, our animation film that this year Flow got Oscar for best animation film, which is very amazing because Latvia is a small country and we like Flow um, won over very big Hollywood studios, and Flow is a very gentle, very beautiful animation film in yeah, in sort of like post-apocalyptic world where humans don't exist anymore and animals have to work together to survive. And um, you can easily say, of course, that it's not only about animals, that we all have to to work together to survive.
It sounds very interesting. I really, really look forward to watching
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Finally, is there a film in general that captures something essential about Latvia today? Something that you can say when you watch this film, you can more or less capture something about the country, about its culture, daily life, or maybe politics.
Let me quickly check.
Of course.
In this case, I do need simply
Let's say in the
to
last decade, not necessarily 2020s only, but also perhaps we can expand the time frame.
there. There are a lot of really good films happening, and really like Latvian cinema has been growing, and we have very beautiful shorts, very beautiful features, very beautiful documentaries, also very good TV shows, TV series.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, it is like a lot of things are happening, but I'm struggling now to choose something that is the film that should be seen from this period. So I have to quickly run over what was actually
No
filmed.
problem at all.
Um, Actually, for many years, I used to work in short films. Um, well, with short films more. I was working with short film um, programs in a festival, and I have to say that short films, it's something that is somewhat maybe undervalued because if features, it takes longer time for a feature to be done, to be made, and so then this reflection about what is happening, it's sort of like maybe a bit delayed. But short films, they can be done in like few months and in a very like with not so many like with not such a big budget. And short films, I think they are the ones to look at um,
Certainly.
when you're looking at something that is what is happening instead of like how is a certain society at the certain moment. But I guess I found my answer. It's again a documentary.
Yeah,
Um, um, it's called in Latvian, it's called Turpinājums, but in English, it's I guess continuation. I think that could be the English.
continuation.
Um, it's by a Latvian documentary film classical. Well, like he's one of the biggest documentary filmmakers. Um, and he's still active. He's, I think, in his 80s now. I think he was, yeah, something like late 80s. And he made a film in 2018. It was like it came out in 2018 or 2019. I don't remember. But anyway, so um, rather recently. And Ivar Steleckis is the name of the director. And his approach in this case was that, as he said, he has made a lot of films in his life, all of them about grown-ups. And for the first time, like in his late 80s, he decided that he wants to do a film about kids. So he, with help of anthropologist team and yeah, another researchers, they found they did a really thorough search of the country and they found five kids whose families um, characterize Latvia's diversity, let's say it like that. So we have one family, for example, where a kid lives with grandparents because the parents are elsewhere are working abroad and making money abroad. We have a family in Riga that is like the parents have I think they had moved to the Riga at some point. They were not like historically Riga's inhabitants, but at some point their families had moved to Riga and they became citizens of Riga. We have also one family where it's just mother and daughter living in the countryside. We have also one family with Russian parents and how that and that also opens different dimensions to the picture of Riga. So basically, they found five somewhat typical stories of Latvia and filmed kids. All of them were 7 um, and started school. So basically, he started filming these kids from their first day of school when they started going to school. And now, last year, the second part came out um, where like he followed these kids some 6, 7 years later again, and how they have grown into adolescents now. And Ivar Steleckis, his works are characterized by the sort of like he has a very big heart and he really loves his protagonists. He does not really judge them, but he really observes. He finds lovable things in all of them, and I just think it's a very beautiful, it's a very warm portrait of Latvia. And since it's about kids, then of course it's also very sort of like hopeful. So, um, and I think it's a very beautiful film, really.
Certainly, I look forward to watching
Yes,
them. And thank you for those great recommendations.
yes.
Just one thing came to my mind.
Tell
Uh,
me.
Films are absolutely very significant tools to understand a country. But in the last couple of years, I think that I developed a habit. I'm watching street interviews on YouTube
Hmm.
sometimes to understand what really people think about a certain phenomenon. It depends on, of course, the question being asked during the street interview. But they really provide very interesting insights
Mm,
about societies being interviewed. Especially in my country, in Turkey, this is also a very common phenomenon that people are conducting interviews on the streets with people. And I believe that if the interviewer is really objective, um, and sometimes they are, absolutely, I believe that, they really capture very interesting insights from people about their lives, their problems. So this just came to my mind
Yes.
also
Uh,
as an alternative. But
yes.
absolutely, films are also extremely important to understand countries and cultures.
Yes. And that's why that's why I still believe also in power of short films because of course
Yeah,
unfortunately our attention span is getting lower and it is becoming harder for people to maintain focus for longer periods of time. But long story
certainly.
short, I think that shorts, it's very good to follow also what's happening in the field of short films. And
Yeah,
they sometimes can offer very fascinating insights into communities that you did not even imagine exist. And yeah, so but currently we have so much content that it's important to maybe I guess not waste your time, I guess, on things that are not high quality, or like to know what you want to watch, what you want to hear. But also, it's I think extremely important to not get into a bubble, of course, because you do need. It's a very it can be very it can be very dangerous if you come into this echo chamber, but currently, of course, social media and YouTube and things like that, they offer us very many opportunities to hear interesting and different opinions.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Agnese Logina, thank you very much for joining the Left Agora. It was a
Yeah.
huge pleasure for me to
Thank you
host you.
for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me and talking to me about things that I'm passionate about.
Agnese Logina was a great interview. We are lucky to have heard from her, and my sincere thanks to her for the depth and sincerity she brought to these episodes. For more dialogues like this one, join me here at the Left Agora by subscribing to the channel. Until next time, let the Agora echo with new voices.